know that where you are and how things feel isn't how you want things to stay? Well, crank up the volume and get ready to cut the crap and start living the magic with Joanne Antoun and her specially selected guests. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your amazing life.
Welcome to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm your host, Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and founder of CTC, the Life Transforming Combined Therapy Cocktail. Do you have love on your mind? Are you searching for the love of your life? Are you falling in love or out of love right now? I have a fantastic show in store for you. Today I have with me one of the world's leading relationship experts, Katherine Woodward Thomas. This lovely lady is the national best-selling author of Calling in the One, 7 Weeks to Attract the Love of Your Life, a licensed psychotherapist and relationship expert who has had the privilege of teaching hundreds of thousands of people worldwide in her virtual and in-person learning communities. Katherine is also the author of the New York Times bestseller Conscious Uncoupling, 5 Steps to Living Happily Ever After. Katherine and I are going to be talking all things love and relationships, how to consciously and lovingly part company with the person that you've come to realize isn't the one, and how to call in the one, your ideal relationship. Today, I promise you we cover it all. Hi there, Katherine. Welcome. It's an honor to be speaking with you today.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be with you too.
Now, Katherine, I'm so excited. Love and matters of the heart is something that affects us all, and love is certainly something that we're all searching for. People often talk about wanting to attract their soulmate or twin flame. What, in your opinion, is the definition of these?
Oh, I have a rather unusual take on soulmate. I mean, obviously, soulmate is to find someone who is so resonating at the same level that you are in terms of your values and your vision and where you're going. There's a deep recognition of one another, a deep soul affinity. You feel home, like you're home with this person. But I also think that we have soulmates in different disguises. That it's not just romantic love. And, of course, Calling in the One is really focused on finding that one person for you. But I think that our coworkers can be our soulmates, our children can be our soulmates, our friends, family members. So I kind of have, joked over the years. I say, I think it's really about calling in the ones,
Yes, of course. So it's basically our soul family, right? The people that we really connect with.
Family, our soul tribe. I mean, I get so lit up when I meet somebody who is a fellow architect of change, to use Maria Shriver's term. Someone who's here to really, lean in and begin to, support the evolution of goodness and love and restore a portion of the world's lost heart in some way, because really that's who I am. And so when I meet somebody who's like that, I feel like I've met a soulmate. I feel at home with that person. But we're here to talk about, I think, intimate love, and of course that comes in its own package. So it's interesting because we're going to talk about both books. We're going to talk about Calling in the One, 7 Weeks to Attract the Love of Your Life, which came out in 2004, and I've had the privilege of working with over 200,000 people to help them to find love. And then Conscious Uncoupling, which came out in September, which is available in Australia also. It went on to the New York Times bestseller list, and it's about how to amicably end a relationship that has run its course, or it just needs to end for the many reasons why relationships end, and to be able to do that in such a way that we do minimal damage to ourselves and each other and our children if they're involved. We set everyone up to win moving forward, where the breakup is actually characterized by generosity and goodwill and honor and dignity and respect. So the truth is about, me, is I'm all about the evolution of love in the world. And so these are different aspects of our relationship, and how to create happy, healthy closure is as important as how to create happy, healthy love, because the way that we end our relationships will really determine the the quality of the relationship that comes after. I always like to say your next relationship will not begin when you meet your next partner. It will begin with how you end with your former partner.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's basically coming from a place of love all the time, isn't it, in the relationship and also during the end of the relationship. And I notice these days especially, people seem to be growing and changing so much more quickly, and that affects our relationships because we grow apart more quickly, certainly a lot more quickly than I think we used to. With that in mind, does the one, that person that we can share forever with or resonate forever with on all levels, exist? Or is it for a time?
This is a very good question, Joanne, because, those of us who are living at this pivotal time in the course of human history, we are living with a particular tension that is very intense, and part of it is the pull towards grounding our relationships, staying with one person. We value marriage, fidelity, commitment, staying through thick and through thin till death do us part. And, the kind of sacrifice that might require is noble and good. And yet there's also a draw and an impulse towards, and even an urgency to grow ourselves, to begin to create things that have not yet been created. And so there's this tension between the impulse to grow and the impulse to stay the same, because if you grow too much before your partner is growing, you could really outgrow the marriage in many ways. And this is happening to people. And it's not so much that, we talk about marriages that kind of drift apart. It really what happens in those relationships when one or both people decide to end them is because of the tension of the way that the growth happened, is that the values tended to change. So that the foundation that the relationship was originally founded upon is no longer viable for one or both people, that they're beginning to value new things, new horizons, feeling like they want to aspire to new ways of being and new ways, new adventures in life that is not of interest to the partner and maybe even be offensive. So we're living with this tension between the valuing of relationship and the impulse to grow ourselves. And it is wreaking havoc. So one of the things that I've really looked at is in the book Conscious Uncoupling, I deconstruct the happily ever after myth. Now, I did that because we are all so inside of that collective story that we really do hold ourselves and each other accountable to the fulfillment of that fantasy. And when a relationship ends before one or both people die, we automatically assume that relationship was a failure. And so we move into a certain sense of shame. We have failed to live up to society's expectations of us, and we are embarrassed and we are ashamed. So in addition to grieving the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, now we feel socially shamed and humiliated and embarrassed. We feel like we have failed. And so I got very curious when I divorced my husband after 10 years of marriage. And we did it in a very, very kind and loving way, which is the foundation of the conscious uncoupling work, is actually what I myself went through. Mm-hmm. But I got very curious about this aspiration to live happily ever after, so I decided to do a little research, and I discovered that myth is about 400 years old, and it began in Venice, Italy.
Oh, really? Yes, the place of romance.
Of course, the place of romance. That's where it was born. And so I started to research what was happening in Venice, Italy, that would give rise to this, new form of literature that was called the fairy tale. And what was happening were two things. Number one, the lifespan was under 40, not because people died at 40, but because half the children were dying by the age of 16. And so if you really let that touch your heart, what that would be like to live in a world where your child only had a 50% survival rate, and you were living with the constant death of your children's friends or schoolmates or your family members. And so in that world, it seems smart to me to keep the parents together, to try and give the children the best possible shot at survival. The second life condition, though, was very interesting to me, and that was that there was a very distinct class system in Venice, Italy, in the 16th century. If you were born poor, you were sure to die poor. There was no way out. And in fact, there was a law on the books that prevented a noble person to marry a commoner. And so if you notice, all fairy tales end not only with true love, but with upward mobility, where a commoner is plucked out of poverty by a noble person who then, so there's this expectation not just to live together for a lifetime, but also that somehow, that we are drawn towards the upward mobility in our fantasy of happily ever after.
Yeah. And that's why every girl loves a story of Cinderella.
And it's kind of inside of us. It lives inside of us as the template. So what's the reality of that? Well, the reality is that very few of us in the postmodern world are going to just find one love that we bond with and then stay with for the rest of our lives. And what's more typical is a series of loves over the course of our lifetimes. And actually, I'm not sure about the numbers in Australia, Joanne, but I know in America, the numbers are that the average woman will have 3 to 4 major relationships in her lifetime. And so the majority of women will have 2 to 3, which means, of course, the majority of women are also going to have 1 to 2 breakups. Cool. And so my theory is that inside of our happily ever after myth, though, we have never learned how to break up well. Right? There's no roadmap for how to do that well, and it's treacherous territory. It's very, very intense, a breakup. And so we can consequently behave badly at the end of love. Even the nicest of us are very tempted to behave badly. And we can consequently, go into forming what we call a negative bond as opposed to really moving on and get stuck in anger and resentment. I call it going from soul mate to soul hate.
Yeah. So what is it, because sometimes even nice people turn really bad. Why do people typically behave so badly at the end of the love? Is it the shame? Is it the fear? Is it the embarrassment that triggers that?
Well, actually breakups are a very underrated trauma. And trauma therapists will actually call it the rupture of attachment. And if you really look at the neurobiology, there's a lot of neurobiology that's coming out now on attachment. And what you'll see is that we human beings were really born to bond. That nature has designed us to stay attached to each other. And if you think about, human beings 1,000 years ago, gosh, doesn't that make sense? That, 1,000 years ago, if you wandered away from your tribe, that was probably most certain death. And even for an infant, each one of us came into this world completely dependent on an attachment figure, as we call it in psychotherapy, because I'm also a therapist, right? So but it's, our mother, our father, our caregiver. And that somehow, babies, if their attachment figures disappear and go away, even if you feed them and you clothe them and you give them water, very often babies will die for the lack of care. So we still have those memories in our bodies. And when our primary attachment figure leaves or abandons us or betrays us, we can go into severe fight or flight mode. We feel like we're going to die. And also neurobiology is showing now that our brains sync up to other brains of those we're closest to and serve to regulate our emotions. And so we will go into being deregulated emotionally. So our emotions will start to go all over the map. So we have all these kind of, and then the other thing that nature does that's almost really cool is that studies show that the same part of the brain that became activated when we first fell in love is the exact same part of the brain that becomes activated when someone we love is rejecting us. So rather than like do the sensible thing, like our brains kind of step back and start to, diminish the importance of that person or allow us to really, let go and move forward, what the brain does is it starts releasing chemicals and become, has us become obsessed with longing for that person and become obsessed with trying to get them back. So nature has really designed us for attachment. And so when we break up with someone, our emotions are deregulated. We can, go easily from soulmate to soul hate in the attempt to form a negative bond. All of these things are kind of working against us. In many ways, our biology is working against us. And the only thing, Joanne, that kind of separates us from somebody who does, lash out and do something really sociopathic to somebody, throws their clothes, on the front yard with bleach all over them, or burns the house down, or kind of
all the crazy things.
It's our conscience, our character, because we're more in command of ourselves. But it's very easy to misbehave at the end of love.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from our break. We're ready for a break right now. I'm Joanne Antoun, and you're listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm here today with my special guest, Katherine Woodward Thomas. Do visit her site at KatherineWoodwardThomas.com. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up after the break is more awesome conversation with this fantastic lady. We'll be right back with more.
Feel isn't how you want things to stay? Do you want to be free of the past and all that holds you back? Well, you need CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap.
I have to admit, I was a bit sceptical, but CTC has rocked my world. My past issues, even my fear of public speaking is gone, and nothing can stop me now.
Because of CTC, I can honestly say that I'm good enough. I actually love myself.
It was awesome. We should have done it years ago. Now I know that I am the power in my world.
CTC gave me back my health. I cut the crap, and now I have my health and my life back.
To find a therapist or to join the team of transformation, visit iictc.net. Do you know that where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay? Do you want to be free of the past and all that holds you back? Well, you need CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap.
I have to admit, I was a bit sceptical, but CTC has rocked my world. My past issues, even my fear of public speaking is gone, and nothing can stop me now.
Because of CTC, I can honestly say that I'm good enough. I actually love myself.
It was awesome. We should have done it years ago. Now I know that I am the power in my world.
CTC gave me back my health. I cut the crap, and now I have my health and my life back.
To find a therapist or to join the team of transformation, visit iictc.net.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm speaking with the lovely Katherine Woodward Thomas. Now, Katherine, when we left off, we started on the topic of conscious uncoupling. And for our listeners out there, do visit the website. It's a fantastic website, consciousuncoupling.com. So we spoke about the fact that even nice people can turn really bad. What exactly is conscious uncoupling? How do we come to the point where we realise that the one we're with maybe isn't the one, and we want to uncouple in a loving way? How do we do that?
Well, so, I think that most of us know that breakups tend to be quite difficult. And a lot of us, have heard horror stories, or maybe we just anticipate that all breakups are going to be ugly. And I think, I was fortunate that Gwyneth Paltrow had learned of my work and was using my term to describe her union, because she's really kind of done a different version of modeling a wholesome breakup, a healthy breakup, one where the children are not left to fend for themselves or torn between two warring parents. And, that's really I was very grateful that happened. And so conscious uncoupling, though, is not just another version of amicable divorce. There's actually a 5-step process to it to help people to live the ideal of being able to show up in ways that are honorable, that are fair, that are, not about hurting somebody or getting revenge. And so the first step in a conscious uncoupling is really about harnessing the very big emotions that you might be feeling, and learning how to use the energy that's inherent in those big emotions to fuel positive change in your own life. So I teach people how to not only just kind of get a handle on those hot emotions, where you have the emotions rather than them have you, but also how to start to dig a little bit deeper and to notice the positive impulse inside each. Like for example, Joanne, the energies of rage are really inherently like the reclamation of your right. Like, I deserve to be treated better than this, right? So there's something good at the center of your rage. And rather than take the energy and kind of waste it on creating more negativity or generating that negative bond or taking actions that are going to then kind of destine you to be eating bitter fruits for years to come, what we want to do is we want to take the power of that ferocity and turn it into a stand that you're going to take for your own life. Like, really, this pattern ends here, now, today, last time I ever do this, right?
So for somebody that's caught up in the rage, and you often see when somebody's in that space, it's almost like they're not conscious. How do they recognize in that moment what they're doing and look at it differently and therefore behave differently?
Well, I think it has to start with the recognition that, it's a great question, because basically you're saying, we're all a little crazy, and our perception, it might be really distorted. So one of the things that I try and do is I tell a story that a gentleman named Ken McLeod, who's a Buddhist teacher, tells around karma. And I think that the idea of karma, basically, as most of us understand it, is kind of tit for tat. If I do something bad, then something bad happens to me. But if you really look at the Sanskrit meaning of the word, it means seed, action, results. So meaning that each action that we take is like a seed that is planted and will generate a particular result. So I try and, seduce people with the understanding that if you just blindly let yourself act out, just to blow the steam off or to indulge that impulse towards revenge, you will be dimming down your chances for love in the future. You will be harming other people who you might not mean to harm. You will be harming yourself. You will also, you want to be harming the other person, but you will probably damage your children in the long run, or people in your community who are now going to have to choose sides and, go to war. So I try and, appeal to the peace builders in all of us and say, look, if you manage to plant seeds of fairness and generosity and ultimately kind of move yourself in the direction of forgiveness by learning your lessons, by making amends to yourself for the ways that you've thrown yourself under the bus, you're not only going to grow and you're going to become so much healthier that you will be able to create an even healthier, happier relationship on the other side of this, but you will behave from the wisest, deepest parts of yourself in a way that you will feel proud of for years to come. And you will be living congruent with your highest ideals. So I think it's always a little bit of an enrollment process to, get people to awaken out of that, that trance that would have us hurt other people. But truthfully, Joanne, anyone listening to this call is a person who's interested in personal development and cares about these things. We don't want to show up from the worst of ourselves. Nobody wants to mess up their children. Nobody wants to dim down their chances for love living going forward.
Absolutely. Now, what if let's say, I've been divorced and had multiple relationships, and I have to say I've been very lucky that I've uncoupled consciously and certainly lovingly. But what if the other person, obviously we all have free will and choice, so what if the other person is quite bitter, and what if the other person behaves poorly? So you're coming from a very loving space and you're trying to shower the experience with love, and they're simply not interested in doing that and they behave badly. How do you change that?
Well, I think that's very, very common. So if people are they're breaking up with someone who is behaving in sociopathic ways, right? That's the extreme of what you're asking. There's two things. One is that a lot of conscious uncoupling is about being able to take personal responsibility and see yourself as the source of what's happening in order to trust yourself moving forward, so that you will never make these same mistakes again. So part of it, like if you're with somebody who has a low character, somebody who is lacks empathy, is very much going to lash out and harm you and burn the house down and all that stuff. Number one is you have to realize that you've been living with the tension of being married to that person or in an intimate relationship with that person for a long time, and that in many ways you've been settling, you've been compromising, you've been walking on eggshells to not set the person off. So this is what freedom looks like, and there's a karma to, I think, making the choices to be with someone who's maybe warrior nature, that they're going to get everything for themselves, and when you were the person on their arm, then you were kind of benefiting from that because maybe they got you a lot of money, or you were safe, or you got somehow, when it was on your side, it was somehow okay with you. So I do think that there's like a grown-up moment where we look and say, look, when I was benefiting from that warrior nature, I didn't mind it at all. However, now I'm the one that is turned against. But I think, so there's the choices of all the red flags that we turned away from, all the things that we didn't confront, all the things that we've been willing to kind of, dim down our own deeper knowing about. This is kind of a day of reckoning. So it's to keep a perspective of, I'm ready now to grow beyond this. I'm strong enough to leave. I feel powerful enough. I have enough faith in the overall goodness of life that whatever is being threatened, that if I stay the course, I'm going to be okay on the other side. Not only okay, but I will be richer for it in many ways. And then also, there's so many ways to de-escalate somebody who's angry. There's just, and you never want to give someone who's in a lesser consciousness the power to determine who you're going to be. So I teach people to be the leader of love. So be the leader of kindness. So it doesn't have to be love like, oh, but I love you. It needs to be like dignity, respect, honor, thoughtfulness. And if you have not been able to draw boundaries with this person, you're going to be drawing boundaries. You're going to be learning how to do that, but not like a war, but more like you're now, stepping out of the relationship and you're creating a healthier dynamic for you. So I help people to recognize that we really are the leaders and that we cannot give our power away to someone else to determine how we're going to respond.
Right. So in your first book, Calling in the One, which is what you became very well known for, and you've obviously taught lots of people how to call in the One, what then inspired you to create the Conscious Uncoupling program?
Well, I think certainly my own divorce was a bit of a shock and, very difficult on a personal level. After 10 years of being with my husband. So it was, something that was disappointing on a personal level, but then on a professional level, I really didn't quite know how to explain this to people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't necessarily have a big need to explain it to people for a while. But the truth is that Mark and I had such a kind and contained and respectful transition of our relationship. He's very much in my life. We're co-raising our daughter together and talk on an almost daily basis. We have a wonderful relationship where we really support each other and go out of our way to take the load off from each other, cooperate together. We work as a unit. I think we did our separation in a way that was so lovely and so minimized trauma, minimized damage, created a lot of goodness between us, and actually ended up forming a very healthy and a happy post-divorce family. So because I'm devoted to the evolution of goodness in the world, I thought, as much as this is a personal disappointment, I can really see that there's something very beautiful to make of this. And so I created the Conscious Uncoupling program, kind of documenting what we had done to have such a wholesome closure with each other of our marriage, and to be able to go on and move forward without any kind of toxic residue of resentment between us to pull on our daughter and to do harm. That's really what inspired me.
So you're not saying it was pain-free, it was that you just managed the pain and the transition, is that right?
There are two kinds of pain in a breakup, Joanne, and one is just the natural grief of letting go of a relationship. And I don't think we can ever get around that because we're human and we have hearts that love and we bond with each other. And so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about those 5 stages of grief that are normal to any kind of breakup situation. So that's denial, that's anger, that's bargaining, that's depression, and then acceptance. Moving into the goal is acceptance of the transition. However, the unnecessary suffering of a breakup is when we take the bait and form a negative bond and begin to feed into our victimization and build, root heartache down and make a home of it, is what I say, where we do not take personal responsibility for our part in it because we're so festering in our victimized story and so filled with resentment. Also, when we make false meaning of the breakup, and many of us do what's called validating what I call your source fracture story. That's the original break in your heart when you were young. And so a lot of times we'll go through things, then we'll say, see, I am alone, or see, I am unwanted. See, exactly like I thought, I am invisible. I'll always wind up with narcissistic people who are always about themselves.
Yeah, of course, constantly reliving the pattern because of the story that you're carrying.
Right, and so when we break up, very often, if the other person, it's a shift in identity, and it's a very painful one because we've gone from being the one who is chosen to the one who's not chosen, the one who's wanted to being the one who's not wanted. And it can re-trigger the old story and really leave us with the residue of, feeling very, very contracted and inside of a story, a completely disempowered meaning of what the breakup means. And that actually accounts for a tremendous amount of suffering. And I've met people who had a breakup like 8-9 years before and had not even been out on a date because they were so filled with the residue of I'm not wanted, or I can never risk letting anyone close again because I will again be rejected because everyone rejects me, or I will again be left because everyone always leaves and my heart can't handle it
now,
anymore.
In your opinion, what's the best way for those people to deal with the emotions?
Well, I really help people in the conscious uncoupling process to identify that core source fracture story, that the meaning that's being made about the breakup. And, a lot of my work, Joanne, which I'm sure you know, is about taking responsibility for ourselves as the source of our experience. And, that's not about blaming ourselves or excusing the bad behavior of other people or shaming ourselves in any way. It's really about saying, well, how is this story happening? How did it happen through me as opposed to me? Because that's where power begins to be restored. When we can start to see, wow, inside of my deep aloneness from childhood, for instance, I never really learned how to argue well. And so whenever there was a fight, I would just shut down, I would withdraw into myself, and I would maybe start to covertly signal the other person that they should go. So that's, if you start to see how you're the source of your own repetitive patterns, it gives you the freedom to start to do something else. You've now made the unconscious conscious, and you can literally graduate from that story and have your breakup be the last time you ever run that pattern. So step 3 in the conscious uncoupling process is break the pattern, heal your heart. And it's very important actually to identify the core beliefs that are underneath the repetitive pattern that's been so painful.
Absolutely, because that's obviously what changes all our tomorrows, isn't it? By dealing with the source, the root cause of things. Now, how does conscious uncoupling support people to create what you call living happily even after?
Well, that's going to be the first 3 steps are being able to find peace within yourself and to actually be at peace with the choices that have been made and what has happened. Where you have made mistakes, where the other person has made mistakes, where you have repeated old patterns, or just kind of gone back into an old story of aloneness or isolation or rejection or disappointment in love. And so the first 3 steps are more internal steps for you. The second 2 steps are about how to move forward with your former partner. And particularly if there's a shared community, and most particularly if there's shared children, you want to be able to disappear the toxic residue of resentment or blame that is being passed back and forth between you. And so step 4 is about, how to disappear all that so that you can get to a place where you can now begin to build a different kind of future with new agreements in the relationship that are appropriate to the new form that the relationship is taking. I also talk in step 4 about a Japanese practice called Kintsugi. It's actually I'm saying this, Kintsugi, and it's actually an art form where the Japanese the artist will take a broken piece of pottery and will repair the pottery with gold. And so the brokenness is repaired in such a way that the new object becomes an object of great value, and many times more valuable than the original object. And I liken that to a conscious uncoupling, because I think that we can experience a different kind of love at the end of a relationship than in the beginning. In the beginning, can fall in love and your hormones are at play and you feel euphoric and you think you're going to get all your needs met and you have wonderful hopes for the connection. But at the end of love, you understand the limitations. You've been disappointed. You've kind of hit up against the wall of what's never going to happen in that relationship. And then to choose to love anyway, to be kind anyway, to be respectful anyway, is a golden repair of that which was broken, and begins to generate a whole new level of goodness into the relationship that can become your happily even after family.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. And I do have another question on that, which we'll get to when we come back from our break. I'm Joanne Antoun, and you're listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm here with my special guest, Katherine Woodward Thomas. Do visit her site, consciousuncoupling.com. Stay tuned, folks. After the break, we'll have more awesome conversation with Katherine.
Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, your 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is coming to the USA. Are you ready to transform your life and the lives of others? Become a CTC Master Therapist and join the team of transformation now. CTC is a combination of the world's most recognized modalities put together to create powerful transformation on the level of mind, body, and spirit in just one session. This awesome process is recognized globally as the modality of transformation. Become a CTC Master Therapist in 2016. Choose to live a life you love and love what you do. For more information and a scholarship opportunity, visit iictc.net.
Are you after a speaker, a trainer, a motivator that packs punch? Someone to motivate your team? Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is your lady. One of Australia's most sought-after speakers, Joanne will have you sitting at the edge of your seat wanting more. This lady is direct and so beautifully weaves inspiring and motivational stories into her teaching that are sure to motivate your team and create at least a few ahas. No fluff here, this lady brings spirituality down to earth with grace and style. If where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay, then this lady is for you. Visit joanneantoun.com for more details.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm speaking with the lovely Katherine Woodward Thomas. Now, Katherine, before we went to the break, we spoke about unconscious coupling, living happily even after. So let's just say that yourself and your ex have managed to uncouple consciously, and you've created a new type of love which works beautifully for yourselves and your children. But then your ex meets a partner, and because of their insecurities, they bring drama into your relationship because they don't like the fact that you guys get along so well. They don't want their partner to see you or the children. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think it's a very common thing, even for very, conscious people, to be able to kind of navigate these transitions. I mean, I have not had that experience because Mark is in a new relationship, and that's going well, and we haven't run into that kind of a problem. But I do have a friend who went through that, Janet Atwood. She and her former husband, Chris Atwood, at the end of their marriage, made a pact with each other that they were going to be lifelong friends, and that they would really strive when they brought in new partners to navigate that well and stay in each other's lives. And so when Chris met his now partner, Doris, Janet and Chris were already, they had started working together, and they were working on a book, and they have a wonderful book out that became a New York Times bestseller, actually, that they wrote after they were divorced, by the way, called The Passion Test. And so, of course, Doris walks in and she feels very vulnerable. Here he is, not only friends with his former wife, but they're business partners, they're doing workshops, they're creative partners, they've got this big thing. And so Janet had to work hard to win Doris over. And so she always did things like she deferred to Doris. She made sure that she felt like the queen. She did it with her body language. She did it with, she was very patient and very, thoughtful. And it took her a while. And it was, so Janet actually, gave a lot of room to Doris to kind of call the shots and didn't power struggle with her, but kind of deferred to her and let her know that she was queen bee. It was funny. I went out to dinner with Janet and Chris when they were both here in LA with me. And, we were about to take a picture. Somebody grabbed a camera, and they were going to take a picture of the three of us. And suddenly Janet jumped and went to the, she was standing next to Chris, but she jumped. She went to the other side of me. And she said, she said, and then took the picture. So I was in the center. And then she turned to me. She said, I try and never take a picture just with Chris. I always try and put someone between us so Doris doesn't feel threatened. Right. So she worked at that. Now, I will tell you that Chris and Doris now have 3 children, and Janet is their godmother. Wow. And she is a part of their family, and they have no problem. She's like an auntie in the family. So that's not going to happen for everyone, but it's, I think it's, there's a way that we normalize that, and we have to sit back and I think let it happen and let people fall in love, which might not include you in that moment. And it's part of, the adjustment of going into this new form of the relationship. One of the reasons that it works so well for Mark and I is that we don't mess with it. We don't run sexual energy with each other. We don't cross certain lines. So there's almost a formality, and it's an organic formality. It's like you have a formality with a sibling. You don't run sexual energy with a sibling necessarily. It's just, there's just boundaries to it. And if you keep those boundaries, everyone, eventually the other person will start to feel safe in that relationship.
Okay, wonderful, lovely. So, now we've consciously uncoupled, we've found our balance, learned more about ourselves, which is obviously very important, and we're now ready to call in the one. How do we do that?
Oh,
this is the exciting stuff. This is what lots of people want to know. Like, we got rid of one, now we want the real one.
I'm a big advocate of intentional living. And I think there's a big difference between wanting love and setting an intention to have it, and then turning your attention towards preparing yourself to receive it. And so, it's like, rather than calling in the one is kind of, using that attractive, that the law of attraction, so you can draw love towards you. So it's not really about going out and finding love. It's about going within and removing all of your inner obstacles and becoming receptive and magnetic so that love can find you. I liken finding the one to like a needle in a haystack. If you had to go through every single strand in the haystack, you'd be there for a really long time. Yeah. But if you can become magnetic enough, that needle will come to you. So that's the calling in the one process. And it begins with setting an intention, a very clear intention to find love, to create love, and starting to see yourself then as a part of that creative process and organizing around that future fulfilled. And so it's a process of emptying out all that would be in the way and making a lot of space for love. And it's kind of scary in a way because it means letting go of, relationships that you've been hanging on to that you know are never going to go anywhere, but you're there, they're taking the edge off, or old love letters that are kind of stuffed in your night table with someone because it makes you, feel less alone. So you're putting those letters away. You're clearing out space for love. You're looking at your own obstacles to love, the beliefs that you have about your own worthiness to receive it. You're letting go of certain patterns in your family, about all the women are the strong ones and the men are screw-ups, and so you have this matriarchal club with your mom and your grandmother, about you make fun of men or something. Mm-hmm. So it's really getting congruent with that future of love fulfilled and starting to take risks that would put you into situations where you will be more likely to find your partner and living into that future. And really seeing yourself as a co-creator. So there, part of the conscious uncoupling work is really the preparation to being able to call in a really wonderful love, because the intention you can set after a conscious uncoupling is, I'm going to have the best relationship of my life. And I'm going to take everything that I just learned and up-level to have such a rich, joyful, stable, nourishing, mutually inspiring connection that would have never been possible before had I not had that breakup and learned so much about myself moving forward.
Right. So basically getting rid of the crap, making room, being the person that you also want to attract, and taking risks. Do you work with affirmations, vision boards, any of that? Do you write a list of the type of person that you want?
I like affirmations. I tell you, I don't know. I don't work with them when it comes to love, but I do work with something that we call power statements or deeper truth statements, because one of the things that I've come to realize in working with so many people over the years is that we each have what I would call a core love identity. That's the self-sense that we created when we were very, very young inside of what was happening in our world about who we really are as it relates to others, what's really possible for us to have in this lifetime as it relates to love. And so a power statement is the ability, is the statement that actually collects that. So I take people through a process where you can see, it's much like your source fracture wound, right? You see your core beliefs about your own worthiness, your own ability to keep yourself safe, your own power to actualize love. And you come up with a statement of a deeper truth that is born from the sophisticated, wise, powerful adult that you are, and not kind of that core belief which was made from a you that you was, confused and young and overwhelmed by what was happening. So we wake people up to a power center, and from there we're able to really create beautiful love. So something like a power statement is, I wasn't born to be alone. I came here to love and be loved, and I have the power to grow myself healthy enough to create happy, healthy love. That would be a statement.
That's a lovely, lovely statement. So when you call in the one, and let's just say you've met somebody and they're fabulous, how do you know that it's the one?
I am a big advocate for, in the calling in the one process, I bring people through, know your purpose, understand who you are, know what your values are, what's your life about. And I think if we're talking about making a deep commitment to someone, we really are talking about aligning with our core values and our core vision. And then plus, you have all the circuits are lighting up where you feel such deep resonance. You feel you're at home with that person. You feel safe with that person, and you're attracted to that person.
Yes, of course. Now, do you have any workshops or anything coming up? Where can people find you, find out more about what you do, where you're available?
I am, thank you so much for that question. I'm in a big recreation phase right now, and if you go on to consciousuncoupling.com, I have some free classes that people can listen to. I have a Calling in the One free class. I have a Conscious Uncoupling free class that I think is going up today even. That's the recreation. So, I want to invite anybody to go there and download those. And then I'm looking at, creating some new content that I'm going to be offering to people too. So if you sign up and if you sign up for the website consciousuncoupling.com, you will hear about all of my offerings. I will let you know.
Fantastic. So to our listeners, do visit the site consciousuncoupling.com. Catherine, it has been such a fantastic show. Thank you so much. I've really loved the information. I'm sure all of our listeners have too. And love is something that we're all searching for. So it's been very, very informative. We're at the end of our program, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Do join me again for my next show where I'll have another awesome guest who is sure to motivate and inspire you. If you'd like to contact me directly, folks, visit joanneantoun.com. That's JoanneAntoun.com. Or you can hear today's and previous shows again on iTunes. Love and blessings to you all.
You've been listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic with Joanne Antoun. Tune in every second Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, as Joanne and her specially selected guests inspire you to live each moment of your life with absolute love and passion. Want to connect with Joanne directly? Visit www.joanneantoun.com. That's joanneantoun.com, and find out just how easy it is to heal the past, live in the present, step fully into your power, and easily create the future you desire.